Yep, I see it live stream now. Good. Namo Buddha and Jai Bhim. I'm Sonali Mahakare, your host for today's session. I welcome you all on behalf of ANA to this weekly online Vihara. As we all know, March 8th was International Women's Day. I think recognizing the achievements and contribution of women should not be limited to just one day. Women make valuable contributions to society every day, and it is important to recognize and celebrate those contributions and successes year-round. Celebrating women and their achievement regularly can help to promote greater gender equality and inclusivity in all areas of society. In light of that, ANA is celebrating International Women's Month, where we are going to have 2 sessions of panel discussions with the wonderful ladies who are experts in their fields. The first session is today as part of this Vihara, and the next one is going to be in the next Sunday on the online Vihara session. I hope you all join that too. All right, I am going to share the agenda for today's session now. First, we'll start with Buddha Vandana, Trisaran Panchashila, followed by Dhamma Discourse. If Bhanteji joins, we are waiting on Bhante Sivli to join this session. And then the last item on our agenda is the panel discussions. We have Anjali and Disha today with us, and the topic is going to be caste oppressed women standing in global economy. So starting with the first item, I would request Pankaj Dada to please start with Buddha Vandana Trisaran Panchashila.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sonali, and good morning to you all. Let us all do the Trisaran Panchashila. Oka Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakhato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami. Panchasilani. Panati Pata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Adinnadana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Kamesu Michchachara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Sura Meraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami Sabba Papassa Karanang Kusalassa Upasampada Sachitta Pariyodapanang Etang Buddhanang Sasanang Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. Yeah, over to you, Sonali. Thank you.
Thank you, Dada. Are we still waiting on Bhanteji, or has he joined?
No, he's on the call.
Sorry, Vivek Dada, I couldn't hear you clearly.
He's on the call.
He's on the call? Okay.
Yeah, Bhante is on the call.
Good. Okay, thank you. So yeah, then moving on to our next item on the agenda, we are going to have Dhamma Discourse by Bhante Sivli. Bhante ji, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. Vandami Bhante.
Sadhu,
Yeah.
sadhu.
Thank you. Please go ahead with Dhamma discourse.
Oh, शील ले लिए क्या?
Yeah. अभी हो गया है, just now.
हाँ बनते
Sorry to
बनते
join.
हमने थोड़ी देर कर
No.
लिए
No.
सॉरी
So, इस प्रकार आज दूसरी गाथा महामंगल सूत्र की है, जो कहती कि माता इस दूसरी गाथा में भगवान बुद्ध हमें बताते हैं कि कहाँ व्यक्ति ने किस तरीके से वास करना चाहिए। जिस तरह हमने इसकी पहली वाली जो गाथा थी उसमें यह जाना कि किस प्रकार की उसने संगति करनी चाहिए, है ना, और वो संगति उसको किस प्रकार से बुरे बातों से दूर रखते हुए सही बातों पे लगाती है। तो वैसे ही अभी आज की जो गाथा है किस स्थान पर रहना चाहिए उस पर बताया गया। इसमें भगवान बुद्ध बताते हैं कि पति रूप देश वासो च पुब्बे च कतपुय्यता अत्त समापनिधि च एतं मंगल उत्तम। ये तीन बातें में भगवान बुद्ध बताते हैं कि व्यक्ति के लिए यह तीन बातें मंगलकारी होंगी, जिसमें सबसे पहली बात है माता पति रूप देश वासो च, अर्थात गलत स्थानों पे वास ना करते हुए अपने अनुकूल, आपके लिए जो अनुकूल स्थान है वहां व्यक्ति ने क्या करना चाहिए, वास करना चाहिए। अभी क्या होता है कि हर एक व्यक्ति की चर्या, हर एक व्यक्ति का स्वभाव जो होता है अलग अलग होता है ना, और हर एक व्यक्ति का जो काम होता है वो भी अलग अलग होता है। तो व्यक्ति को अपने मन के अनुकूल, अपने व्यवहार के अनुकूल और अपने जिस प्रकार से वो काम करता है, कोई भी बिजनेस वगैरह करता है या कोई भी जॉब वगैरह करता है, उसके अनुकूल या अपने जीवन में वो क्या प्राप्त करना चाहता है या अपने जीवन में क्या उद्देश्य रख रहा है, उस उद्देश्य के अनुकूल वह स्थान है क्या नहीं, वह जहाँ रह रहा है वो ठीक है या नहीं, उसने वो जानना चाहिए। अगर वो यह बात नहीं जानता है तो उसकी जो समाधि है या उसकी जो एकाग्रता है या जो मोटिवेशन है वो अपने उद्देश्य के लिए या अपने संकल्प के लिए क्या है, प्राप्त नहीं कर पाएंगे। इसलिए सबसे पहला काम रहता है कि वो देखना चाहिए कि सुटेबल प्लेस उसके लिए वो है या नहीं है। तो ये भगवान बुद्ध एक नॉर्मल लाइफ के लिए, जो एक नॉर्मल लाइफ जो हमारे एक संसारी जो जीवन होता है उस पर भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं कि इन स्थानों पर तो व्यक्ति ने बिल्कुल ही वास नहीं करना चाहिए। जिस प्रकार अगर वहीं पे अगर आस पास में कई शराब बेची जाती होंगी तो वहां व्यक्ति ने वास बिल्कुल भी नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि अगर वहां शराब बेची जाती है तो वहां हमेशा ऐसे लोग आते रहते हैं जिसके कारण हमें तकलीफ हो सकती है, या फिर वहां पे आए समय समय पे क्या होता है, ऐसा वातावरण तैयार हो जाता है, मतलब हमेशा गलत लोग वहां पे आते हैं, और जहाँ पे गलत लोग आते हैं वहां पे हमेशा क्या होती है, गलत संगति और गलत संस्कार हमें वहां से प्राप्त हो सकते हैं। इसलिए कभी ऐसे जगह पे भगवान ने कहा वास नहीं करना चाहिए। दूसरा, जो एकदम सीमांत प्रांत में हो, ऐसे जगह पे जो एकदम बॉर्डर पे जो स्टेट या जो प्लेस होंगी वहां पे भी कभी वास नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि वहां पे समय समय पे क्या होते हैं, डिस्प्यूट होते रहते हैं। तो हम जैसे कि देखते हैं कि आप भी, हम देखते हैं इधर चाइना की बॉर्डर, उधर पाकिस्तान की बॉर्डर, हम देखते हैं कि बॉर्डर पे जो भी होते रहते हैं उससे क्या बहुत इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है वहां के लोगों पे। तो इसलिए ऐसे स्थान पे भी इंसान ने क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, वास नहीं करना चाहिए। तो किस स्थानों पे वास करना चाहिए, अगर कोई बौद्ध उपासक है, अगर कोई बौद्ध उपासक है, तो बौद्ध उपासक होने के लिए उसका जो प्रथम उद्देश्य जो होता है निर्वाण होता है। तो निर्वाण होने के कारण वो हमेशा हर जो प्रयास होता है, हर जो कर्म होता है, निर्वाण के लिए करना चाहता है। तो ऐसे के लिए उसे ऐसी जगह पे वास करना चाहिए जहां से उसको भिक्षुओं के दर्शन, है ना, विहार जाना सुलभ हो जाए, है ना, जहाँ पे वो 10 प्रकार के कुशल कर्म कर सके, ऐसे स्थान पे उसने रहना चाहिए। फिर पुब्बे च कतपुय्यता, अर्थात भगवान बुद्ध बताते हैं कि पूर्व के पुण्य होना भी क्या है, आवश्यक है। क्योंकि हमारे जो भी हम, क्योंकि एक जो कर्मा की थ्योरी है बुद्धिज्म में, उसमें साफ साफ कहा जाता है कि जो भी हमें प्राप्त होता है वो हमारे कहीं ना कहीं, उसके लिए हमारे पुण्य कर्म भी, जो हमारे होलसम डीड्स है वो भी क्या होते हैं, जिम्मेदार होते हैं। तो हमारे पुण्य कर्मों का होना भी क्या है, अति आवश्यक है। अगर हमारे पुण्य कर्म नहीं होंगे तो क्या होगा कि हमें जो प्राप्त होना चाहिए, क्योंकि हम देखते हैं कई सारे लोग हैं जो बहुत प्रयास करते हैं, जिनमें अच्छी बुद्धिमत्ता होती है, अच्छा कैलिबर होता है, अच्छी प्रकार से पोटेंशियल होता है और बहुत प्रयासवान होते हैं, उनका आरब्ध वीर्य काफी अच्छा होता है। पर यह सब होने पर भी जीवन में जो ऊंचाइयां या जो चीज प्राप्त करना चाहिए था वो प्राप्त नहीं कर पाते। तो भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं कि इसके लिए व्यक्ति के पूर्व के पुण्य नहीं होते। इस महामंगल सूत्र में ऐसा कहा गया है कि उसके पूर्व के पुण्य नहीं होते। तो पूर्व के पुण्य होने से उसे क्या होता है, उसे और एक अच्छा स्थान होने से, तो अच्छा स्थान होता है और पूर्व के पुण्य भी होते हैं, तो जो भी वो करना चाहता है बड़ी आसानी से, सुलभता से उसका कृत्य हो जाता है। फिर भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं अत्त समापनिद्धि च एतं मंगल उत्तमं, अर्थात कि हमेशा अपने आप को ऐसे कामों में लगाते रहो जिससे कि आपको डिस्टर्बेंस ना हो, या फिर सोशल वर्क जिसे हम कह सकते हैं, या फिर रिलीजियस वर्क, ऐसे सामाजिक कामों में, जिससे कि सामाजिक एकता बढ़े, सामाजिक समरसता बढ़े, और हमें भी ऐसी भावना उत्पन्न होती रहे कि हम एक समाज का हिस्सा है। तो अगर ऐसे कार्य में वो खुद को लगा के रखेगा तो उसका हमेशा क्या होगा, कल्याण होगा। तो अगर इसे क्रम से देखेंगे तो अगर हमारे पूर्व के पुण्य कर्म होंगे तो हमें अच्छे स्थान भी प्राप्त होंगे, और हमारे पूर्व के पुण्य कर्म हमेशा हमें क्या प्रेरणा देते रहते हैं कि हमने और एक नया पुण्य कर्म करते रहना चाहिए। तो सबसे पहला जो है कि गलत स्थानों पर इंसान ने वास नहीं करना चाहिए। इससे क्या हो जाएगा, उसे पुण्य कर्म करने के लिए आसानी होगी। और व्यक्ति अगर पुण्य कर्म करता रह रहा है तो हमेशा सन्मार्ग पे वो लगा ही रहेगा। तो ये तीनों बातें एक दूसरे जुड़ते हुए व्यक्ति का हमेशा क्या कराती है, मंगल कराती है, हमेशा उसके लाइफ में क्या देती है, ब्लेसिंग्स जो है लाते रहती है। इस प्रकार हम देखते भी है कि अंगुलीमाल का उदाहरण काफी इसके लिए काफी मशहूर है। क्या, तो अंगुलीमाल जिस स्थान पे रहना चाहिए था उस स्थान पे नहीं रहा, और एक गलत स्थान पर रहने के कारण, गलत संगति प्राप्त होने के कारण क्या देखते हैं कि वो इतना अच्छा, इतना बलशाली और इतना काबिल होने के बावजूद भी क्या हो गया, वो समय रहते गलत काम पे और गलत मार्ग पे क्या हो गया, लग गया। तो इसलिए व्यक्ति ने हमेशा अपने आप को सही मार्ग पे लगाते रहना चाहिए। ओके, साधु साधु साधु।
Thank you so much, Bhandiji. That is really important because I think where we grow, it matters like who are we surrounded with. जैसे आपने बोला कि जहाँ पे इंसान वास करता है वो important होता है, वो आगे जाके क्या बनेगा. So yeah, that's really important. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We can actually open question and answers. We'll take a few questions for Bhanteji from our participants on this topic. So please go ahead and raise your hands. I'll call out names one by one. Do we have any questions for Bhanteji today? Yeah, I do not see any hands raised. All right. Well, thank you so much again, Bhanteji. Thanks for joining with us. Thank you. Now we will. Thanks. All right. So now we will move on to our next item on our agenda, which is panel discussion. So we are honored to have with us today a distinguished panel of experts with extensive experience and knowledge in the field of economics. Our panelists include Anjali Rai from India and Dr. Disha Shende from USA. I'll take a few moments and introduce both of them. So Anjali Rai is a well-established Dalit human rights activist and intersectional feminist who has amassed years of experience in advocating for the socio-economic upliftment of Dalits and Adivasis. She has completed her formal education in international human rights, which has empowered her to advocate effectively for the economic rights of SC/ST by demanding adequate welfare budget allocation and public policy making. Furthermore, Anjali possesses considerable expertise in analyzing how inequity and injustice can become entrenched in technology, science, and related policies, and then devising strategies to address these issues. Next, we have Dr. Disha Shende. She's a professor in Beloit College and teaches several courses, including Principles of Economics, Intermediate Microeconomics, and Business Analytics. She has completed her PhD in Economics, MA in Applied Economics, and BTech in Computer Science and Engineering. Professor Shende uses her background in computer science and engineering, her work experience in software industries, and business intelligence in teaching business analytic course in her college. Her research interests are in public economics and international development. She is specifically interested in looking at the health issues of different communities with a focus on disadvantaged social groups, including caste in India and gender. Her interest is also in studying the changing dynamics of health plans in health insurance markets in United States. So we are excited to hear both of our panelists' insights and perspective on today's topic of caste oppressed women standing in global economy, as well as their ideas for building a more equitable and sustainable future. So please join me in welcoming our esteemed panelists. Disha and Anjali, I welcome you both on behalf of Anna, and thanks for joining with us today. I hope you both are doing great. Can you both hear me? Yep.
Hi, Sonali. Yeah, thank you so much for this wonderful introduction.
Thank you. So yeah, let me explain how are we going to do this. You both will have 15 minutes each to present your view on this topic, which is caste oppressed women standing in global economy. Then we will move on to the next subpart, which is the panel discussion, where I'll be asking you both questions around this topic, and then we'll open the forum for question and answers from our participants today. Sounds good?
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. Cool. So we'll start with Anjali. Anjali Rai, can you please present your views on the topic?
Just a moment.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak to you today on the issue. And I'm deeply passionate about the economic empowerment of Dalit and Adivasi women. When we look at the global economy, we can see that these women are often among the most marginalized and disadvantaged groups, facing numerous challenges that hinder their ability to participate in the economic activities and achieve financial independence. So one of the key challenges faced by these women is limited access to education and training. And without proper education and skills training, it becomes difficult for them to compete in the job market and access better paying jobs. Furthermore, I'm sorry, did you say something?
No, I think.
No.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Sure. So, furthermore, I believe that there are a lot of societal biases and discrimination, which makes it even harder for them to secure decent jobs. So, even when they have enough skills, there are challenges and barriers which they are not able to overcome. The economic status of Dalit and Adivasi women is often characterized by multiple dimensions of disadvantage, which also includes lower level of income, education, land ownership, and access to formal employment opportunities. Here, let me share some data with you, which will help you understand better, and it can also illustrate the extent of the problem. So, the median monthly income for Dalit women was only 3,000 rupees per month, and for Adivasi women, it was lower, which was rupees 2,500 per month. And this is significantly lower than the national average for women. A lower proportion of Dalit and Adivasi women have completed formal education, which can limit their access to higher paying jobs. I mean, for example, 24.8% of Dalit women and 20.6% of Adivasi women had only completed secondary education or above, and this is very less compared to the national average of 49.9%. I'm talking about non-Dalit and non-Adivasi women whose secondary education and above qualifications total to about 49.9%. Now, Dalit and Adivasi women are also likely to own to own less land than any social groups. For instance, the percentage of Dalit women owning any land was only 13.4%, compared to 29.4% of non-Dalit women. So can you imagine that Dalit women on one hand are owning only 13.4% land, while non-Dalit women hold a total of 29.4% land. And for Adivasi women, this is even lower, because the percentage of land owning Adivasi women is 11.8%. This is even lesser than scheduled caste women. So and also Dalit and Adivasi women, so if you're talking about global economy, we also have to understand that most of their share of skills are invested in. So most of the Dalit and Adivasi women are engaged in informal work and low paying jobs, which can limit their access to social protection benefits and job security. The percentage of Dalit women working in the informal sectors were 76.8%, compared to 71.3% of non-Dalit women. So most of the Dalit women, they are engaged in informal sectors, which means that they do not have enough documents, enough health schemes, insurance benefits, any benefits that the government might have for public sector employees. And also, these women face significant barriers in accessing credit and other resources to start and expand their own business. So there was a study which was done by International Labour Organization, which said that only 2% of Dalit women and only 3% of Dalit Adivasi women were self-employed, compared to 9% of non-Dalit women. So this was again a very, I would say, the disparity between non-Dalit and non-Adivasi women versus women who are from the general caste is very vast. And I also feel that another major challenge which is faced by these women is a lack of access to finance and credit. So they often have limited collateral, which mean that they cannot meet the requirement of loans from formal financial institutions, and as a result, they may also have to rely on informal lenders and charge a lot of interest rates, which actually traps them in the cycles of debt. So I believe that these challenges actually paint a grim picture of the economic status of Dalit and Adivasi women in India. However, we cannot afford to lose hope, and we must continue to work towards empowering these women, creating a more equitable society. We need to provide them with the necessary support and resources to help them overcome these obstacles and achieve financial independence, in my opinion.
Yep. Thank you so much, Anjali. That was really great talk and presentation, especially in terms of the statistic. I'm pretty sure most of us are not aware of those numbers, that how much lacking we are on that part. Yep. Thank you again. Next, we will move to Dr. Disha. Dr. Disha, can you please talk about your views on the topic?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me for this panel. So I didn't prepare like a presentation, but I'm just going to talk about certain like questions, and I'll give my answers to them. I hope that's fine. Okay. So I'll first talk about Dalit and backward women standing in the global economy. As Anjali already pointed out thoroughly, I think she made some great points. Dalit population in general, we know is disadvantaged and face multitude of barriers. But Dalit women, like on top of being Dalit, they also face issues that women face, right? So they face this double whammy of being Dalit and being women. I think as far as thinking about like Dalit women standing in global economy is concerned, I think we have a lot of we have to do a lot of improvement in terms of like improving our standing. But I think we should not it's not only a responsibility of Dalit women to achieve that objective, right? So everyone should help Dalit women to get there. I was trying to look for the comprehensive data that I could cite that could tell us about like global Dalit women standing in global economy, but I could not find any data. But I can talk about how Dalit women are doing in South Asia, because that's where most of the Dalit women population reside, right? So according to one survey done by National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights, Dalit women often work in low-paying jobs and informal jobs. So if you, I think most of the people here in the audience are from India, and they probably know, if you look around just in your neighborhood, who are the domestic workers? They're mostly from disadvantaged groups, right? So Dalit women mostly. So that means most of them are working in informal sector with no job security. The labor laws, they don't apply to them, right? So yeah, so they also they often have lower wages and almost no benefits. So that means earning-wise, Dalit women are not doing very well. Most of these maids or household workers that we see in Indian households are Dalit women. So they don't have a lot of earning. Similar report is done in Nepal. So again, Dalit population is not just in India. Most of us know that. It's in other South Asian countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, right? So in Nepal is the same situation for Dalit women. One report by International Labour Organization found that Dalit women had the lowest earning of all workers and were more likely to work in informal and low-paying jobs. So again, with no benefits or fewer benefits compared to other women. Then a similar case in Bangladesh, they have almost none to zero, like minimum formal education. That means their employment opportunities are limited, and hence the income or earnings are also limited. So what has the government done to address these disparities among Dalit women and other women in India? So they have done some, taken some measures, right? First, I think we all know reservation policy or affirmative action policy in India. So if those who don't know what affirmative action policy is, it's where the marginalized community or Dalit communities have been given some quota in education or political representation, and it's basically it seeks to increase access and opportunities for these marginalized communities in different sectors to help them in their economic well-being. Then some states have also implemented women's quota in education. So there is not there's a quota for women in politics, but not in education in all states. So some of the states have implemented women's quota, such as Maharashtra. They have done 30% women's quota in education. Then similar is the case with the state of Tamil Nadu. Where some of the seats in college is reserved for women. And then there are different scholarship schemes that the government has implemented, such as, and it's not mainly targeted towards Dalit women. There are some scholarships which are which provide incentive or give some funds to women from marginalized groups or in India, right? Like for school, like girls who are going to school. So, but it's not of much help, right? And the scholarship schemes that are in place are not specifically targeted towards Dalit women. It's mostly targeted towards like all Dalit population, right? Okay, so what can we do as a society? I think government is doing, I don't think it's doing a lot, but whatever it's doing, it comes up with a lot of policies, but there's little to no implementation. I think that's the case with India in general. Like institutions are really weak in India, and that means implementation will be weaker. So I think what we can do is connect our Dalit sisters and brothers and to more resources, right? So provide them connections that can help them thrive in their employment sector or education sector. Provide some opportunities, economic opportunities, like providing them like training or helping them with improving their skills that can increase their employability in the job market. And we also have to look around and see who is struggling, right? So a lot of women I see in my circle who come here, they face this inferiority complex of belonging to Dalit community. So that really affects their mindset and overall their progress, right, in their field. So we have to talk to them and we have to help them improve their self-esteem. That's one thing that we rarely talk about. So we have to be there for them. And we have to also, obviously, I think this is, we talk about discrimination a lot, but a lot of times we discount the stories told by these women. So we have to listen to them and make sure they are being heard. Yeah, we have to be in touch with the local organizations or the nonprofit organizations and the government to keep formulating policies that will help the disadvantaged groups and these women in these disadvantaged groups. Also, this is anecdotal, but I think a lot of women here who are attending this panel would can attest to this, that there is this unequal treatment given by Indian households to so they still prefer boys, right, over girls. Like they have this mentality that investing in girls' education is not going to help the family in the long run, because eventually the girls are going to get married. So why not just invest in boys, right? Why not provide more resources to boys instead of girls? So I think that mindset shift has to happen, and I feel that it is happening to a certain extent, but we still have a long way to go. If you especially go to rural areas, I think that mentality is still there. We have a higher female feticide rate in India still, right, compared to other countries. And yeah, we have, and especially this is true for, I think this is true for all women, but especially true for Dalit women. Also, we need to talk about the gender-based violence that is faced by women in India, right? So this is faced by women across all social groups in India, but specifically true for Dalit women. Dalit women are not taken seriously when they report sexual violence or domestic violence. The law or institutions, they don't help them, or they don't take their cases seriously. So if Dalit women, they report some cases, they wouldn't get as much help, or because they're just not taken that seriously. I think overall there is lack of representation of Dalit women in many fields, and we have to take efforts in improving our efforts towards education so that we can increase the representation of Dalit women, because unless they are part of these groups, unless they are representing these groups, we won't be able to solve issues faced by them. Because if you really want to understand what are the issues faced by these women, we have to really talk to them, right? We have to know what issues they are dealing with in their day-to-day life. And unless they are at the top positions, we won't be able to have that information. So yeah, I don't know what else I can talk about. So I had
Thank you. No, I mean, this was really great. Thank you so much, Dr. Disha. I do have a few follow-up questions on that. So the first one is, as you mentioned, that there have been some scholarships and incentives specifically for Adivasis and then Adivasi women. Do we think all these people are aware of that? Because I'm pretty sure they are deprived of education, so they might not be knowing that they are given such scholarships by government. So my question would be like, is there something we can do to create an awareness so they can at least go and get those things for them, and that will benefit them to move forward in their life?
Yeah, I totally agree. There is lack of awareness. There are a lot of like programs. Sometimes the government comes with them, and we have no idea, right? We have to actually go and look them up online, or unless you are in touch with somebody who knows about them, you wouldn't know otherwise, right? So, I think we just need to look around. Those who know about these schemes, they should go and talk to people. They should. So yeah, we are, most of the audience, I think, is in the in most of the people in this audience I know are in the US, but I don't know how many of us go and talk to people who are in India, right? Like communicate or interact with people back in India. So we need to go and like have one-to-one conversations whenever we go and visit, right, our families back home. Yeah, and then whoever tries to approach you, just be available for them. Try to help them in your whatever your capacity is, right? So try to be of help.
Thank you. Yep, that makes sense. The next question I have is for you. I know you are specifically interested in studying the gender angle as well when it comes to this topic. So my question is, how do caste and gender intersect to create unique challenges for Dalit and marginalized women in the global economy?
So is it for me or for Anjali?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
For Disha. Yeah.
Right. So globalization has affected everyone, right? So it has done good and bad. It has increased the competition, and it has given more jobs and employment opportunities to just everyone. But that's also true for Dalit population and women. But I think what the problem is that Dalit women don't have that head start that other groups have. They start with fewer resources. They don't get as much resources in terms of education as compared to other communities. So they don't have that head start, and that affects their overall progress later on in their career. If you think so let's say somebody who has started from like very minimal resources, and that person now has to compete with somebody who has had access to all the resources that are there, right? So yeah, so it's very unfair to make them compete with the groups that have just had more resources. And being yes, caste itself creates a lot of inequalities among in different life outcomes such as education, health. You look at any outcome, and all these outcomes are affected by caste. And on top of that, if you add gender to it, right, if you add women's issues to that, they're not only facing issues faced by minorities or disadvantaged groups, but they are also facing issues by belonging to that particular gender, right? So by just being women. So yeah, does that answer?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing your view. I would like to hear a view from Anjali as well. Anjali, how do caste and gender intersect to create unique challenges for Dalit and marginalized women in the global economy? Can you please express your view on that, Anjali Rai?
Sure. Thank you, Sonali.
Can you hear?
I pretty much agree with Dr. Shende, and I believe that, being a human rights activist and an intersectional feminist, I recognize that caste and gender intersect in complex ways to create unique challenges for Dalit and Adivasi women, especially in global economy. So the intersectionality of caste and gender leads to a compounded effect of discrimination, marginalization, and exclusion, which creates additional, I would say, barriers for women in accessing education, employment, and also economic opportunities. So, and this is because caste and gender-based discrimination both are deeply entrenched in Indian societies, which is leading to all this social and economic exclusion of these women. Now, women who are belonging to the Dalit community experience a triple burden of discrimination, as we are all very aware about it, which is caste, gender, and obviously class. Now, they are also subjected to gender-based violence, sexual exploitation, and other forms of discrimination, which can also be from the community and from outside the community as well. Now, while we are talking about what do you say? While we're talking about this present era, and when we see gender in the aspects of a world which is now technologically driven, I also feel that women have faced way more. I would say women have faced worse discrimination than men from the community, because every platform was driven by internet during the time of COVID-19, and women, I feel, were taken. There were a lot of opportunities which were available online. For example, there was virtual education, there was remote working, and then there were trainings and workshops which you could only access through internet and mobile phones. So I felt that patriarchy played a very bad role, which it always does, of course. But here I believe that patriarchy played a very, very bad role, the bad hero, that it denied women the access to equipments and technology driven devices, which means that जो सेल फोन्स और ये सब चीजें थी, इनका एक्सेस विमेन को कम मिला था, क्योंकि जो पेरेंट्स थे वो ऑफ्टन सोशल मीडिया या फिर इंटरनेट या फिर सेल फोन्स के यूज को एक कैरेक्टर असैसिनेशन के तौर पे विमेन के साथ एसोसिएट करते हैं. सो दिस वाज वन थिंग व्हिच आई फील impacted women more than other genders in the community. And also, I feel that caste-based discrimination in the global economy actually reinforces gender-based discrimination, which results in exclusion of Dalit women from high-paying jobs or leadership positions, because they're still fighting for the minimum, Abhi, imagine when women in the upper caste household or in a very privileged background are fighting for MacBooks and iPhones and stuff. They are still fighting for the minimum, that, let me attend an online class, or let me get into this course. So I believe like it is difficult for women compared to other members in the community.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anjali. Yeah, that's definitely the case. So the follow-up question I have on that is, do you want to say something to the parents of current generation who have daughters in their house? Just want to make sure that we don't repeat that mistakes. So what would be your suggestion to those parents?
See, I am definitely going to talk about it in terms of being a member from the community. So you see that Dalit women comprise a total of 9.9% of India's population. Okay. And such a big chunk of population cannot be kept out of opportunities, and then they cannot be deprived of their rights, because at the end of the day, it also affects the entire economy of India. It also impacts the global economy of the entire world. And all, जितना दलित women का population है, कई countries का total population भी इतना नहीं है, So you cannot deprive countries jitna population ko from their rights, you know, and especially when it's technology, because क्योंकि सिर्फ जो मेन ऑफ द सोसाइटी है, मेन ऑफ द कम्युनिटी है, टेक्नोलॉजी एक्सेस करने में उनको भी प्रॉब्लम हो रही है, लेकिन विमेन जब उन बैरियर्स को भी क्रॉस करके टेक्नोलॉजी को यूज करके आगे बढ़ना चाहती हैं, सो they have a lot of hurdles to overcome, you know, which also comes as a family pressure कि तुम पढ़ के क्या करोगी, या फिर it's okay because see दलित और आदिवासी हाउसहोल्ड्स में इनकम इतना नहीं है कि वो घर में बहुत सारे फोन्स अफोर्ड कर सके, right? So if there is one phone, then obviously the priority is given to the boy in the house कि okay, you use it, because at the end of the day she has to get married and go to other house, you know. But the fact remains very clear here that, you know, women have been more passionate about breaking all the shackles, all the barriers in their life, and they have actually played a great role model in the society.
Yep, well said. Thank you so much. I mean, definitely, as you said, Keepeli, it was deprived. There wasn't much electronics available, and if a family could afford something, they'll prefer it to give to a male child rather than a girl, female child, because their mindset is like, okay, isko to shaadi karke kahin aur jana hi hai. So yeah, thank you so much, Anjali, for sharing that with us. Dr. Disha, I would like to hear your thoughts on that as well. What do you want to say to the current parent generation who are raising daughters in their house?
I would just say that give them the freedom that they need to pursue their dreams and ambitions. Don't suppress them, because a lot of Indian families in general, they tend to do that. And that's especially true for marginalized communities, because they just don't see returns to investing in education, especially for girls, right? So yeah, believe in your daughters. If they want to pursue a certain goal, be supportive of that, and if possible, give them as many like economic resources as possible to help them get there. Yeah, I think a lot of, like, this is again anecdotal evidence. I think a lot of families nowadays, you know, like from Dalit who are Buddhists, they do, or I don't see as much gender-based discrimination in the households as I used to see, maybe like when I like a decade or 2 decades ago. So it is changing, I think, but we still need to have more efforts in decreasing that gender-based discrimination in households, and that will start with parents. We have to create examples. You know, parents who are here, like, I think they should create examples for their daughters and show them that this is, you know, this is how it should be. This is you should not tolerate any kind of discrimination, either in the households or outside the households. So it will start from the families.
Yep. Thank you so much, Disha, for sharing that with us. So there is the next question, and this is for Anjali, because Dr. Shende has already touched this part. So Anjali, I would like to hear from you. How can government, NGOs, and businesses work together to create more inclusive economic system that would benefit Dalit and marginalized women?
Sure, thank you for your question, Sonali. Just a second. I think I did something to my Zoom. Just a second.
Okay, please take your time.
Yeah, so okay. So your question was, how can individuals, government and organizations,
Government, NGOs and businesses can work together.
Okay, so see, I have worked with a Dalit rights organization called National Campaign on Dalit Human Rights for almost 3 years, and during that time, I felt that individuals and NGOs are doing more than what government has been doing for the community, you know, especially for women from marginalized sections, because government क्या करती है, they prepare plans, they prepare policies, they prepare schemes, लेकिन वो उनके books तक limited होता है. Now how do you ensure that these plans and policies, they are reaching the people on ground, you know? Suppose अगर आप scholarship दे रहे हैं, how do you ensure that it is reaching women on the ground or students on the ground? So this gap I felt was filled with the help of NGOs who have the special coordinators in each state, in each districts, where they are ensuring that, you know, the marginalized communities, especially women and girls, can take benefit of the policies which are structured and framed for them. And I feel that in individual capacity, we can actually support small businesses which are run by Dalits and marginalized women. So this is the one way of supporting economic empowerment of these women, you know, because it takes a lot of courage for these women to start छोटे-छोटे चीजें अपना. Suppose उन्होंने अपना कोई shop लगाया है, या they have started selling clothes, और या फिर वो कुछ भी एक छोटा सा business शुरू करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. So in our individual capacity, it is our moral duty, I would say, कि हम उसको enhance करें. We help we help them कि उनका brand आगे बढ़े, या फिर उनका काम आगे बढ़े. And then we can also donate to organizations जो actually women के economic empowerment को support करते हैं, because these organizations can actually provide resources, training, and support these women to gain access to economic opportunities, you know. Then also being people who are aware of public policies, we can actually advocate for policy changes, you know, because individuals can really advocate for policy changes that promote economic empowerment for Dalit and marginalized women. Then we can also volunteer or do, or you know, provide mentorship support to them कि अगर हमें पता है, ठीक है, we are from the community, हम लोगों ने barriers cross किए हैं, now this is something that we know, why do we not pass it on to the community, you know? So with that thing we can do, we can volunteer to mentor them in achieving something, and then we can also educate ourselves and then people around us about what unique challenges and struggles that Dalit and Adivasi women are facing when they're reaching where they're reaching, you know. Then I feel in the capacity of organizations, so there is this thing called diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is very much in trend for organizations right now. So अभी जो प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी हैं, या फिर जो एनजीओज हैं जो कास्ट के ऊपर काम नहीं करते, देयर इज दिस पॉलिसी व्हिच इज कॉल्ड DE&I, डाइवर्सिटी, इक्विटी एंड इंक्लूजन, जिसके अंदर उनको दे हैव टू इंश्योर के there is a diverse workforce, जो employees हैं उनके लिए anti discrimination policies हों, and there is equal representation of all the community. Now when we are talking about inclusivity, you'll see that there are organizations which are focusing more on gender equality, लेकिन they are seeing gender as a homogeneous group. So if they are talking about women, they are seeing women as a homogeneous group के क्या फर्क पड़ता है, महिला की कोई जाति नहीं होती, kind of thing, you know. So they consciously ignore the caste factor of it, because somewhere deep down themselves they have a casteist attitude, you know. So I believe that even while we're talking about gender equality, we have to make sure that this homogenization of women is broken and there is diversity among them. So there are people who identify themselves as women, then there are people who come from marginalized backgrounds, there are Dalits, there are Adivasis, there are women from denotified tribes, you know. So there is actually inclusion and equity and diversion in true sense. Then very important thing which I would like to talk about here is that ठीक है, what government is doing right now is doing अपनी तरफ से वो अपनी नजर में बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हैं. However, इस साल के यूनियन बजट में उन लोगों ने 9.9% पॉपुलेशन के लिए पूरे बजट में से 0.8% फंड्स एलोकेट किए हैं. That is a separate story, okay? But we'll not go there because this is a very deep analytic thing we'll get into. But I really feel that at this point, government needs to put effort into sending women outside the country for work and studies. NOS है, नेशनल ओवरसीज स्कॉलरशिप है, बट उसमें कितने विमेन हैं और कितने दूसरे लोग हैं, इस चीज का कोई भी सॉर्ट ऑफ व्हाट डू से कोई रिजर्वेशन नहीं है उस चीज को कि इतने % शुड बी वुमेन या इतने सीट्स आर फॉर वुमेन, यू नो। और उसके अलावा भी मुझे लगता है कि एनओएस में आप 100 दलित बच्चों को या आदिवासी बच्चों को बाहर भेज के यू नॉट डूइंग अ very great thing, you know. So they need to implement more money, allocate more money into sending just women from Dalit and Adivasi backgrounds, ताकि बाहर जाके उनको पढ़ने के बाद global surroundings का exposure भी मिले, you know. So अगर if these women keep on fighting for private institutions, now अभी 50% of the institutions in India are privatized, okay. तो अभी जो पेरेंट्स हैं उनका मेन फोकस है, उनकी लड़ाई इतनी है कि वो अपने बच्चों को प्राइवेट स्कूल में डाल सके। अब जब उस चीज को ओवरकम करेंगे तो गवर्नमेंट का मुझे लगता है कि ये फर्ज भी बनता है दैट दे मेक श्योर दैट द स्टूडेंट्स आर आल्सो गोइंग अब्रॉड, क्योंकि अगर आप उनको ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी में इंक्लूड करना चाहते हैं, आप चाहते हैं कि इतना बड़ा पॉपुलेशन 9.9% ऑफ द कंट्री का जो पॉपुलेशन है वो ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी में रिप्रेजेंट करे, देन यू मेक श्योर कि आप वो स्टेप्स भी ले रहे हैं, यू नो, आप इनफ उनको, देयर आर एंटी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन पॉलिसीज, फिर आप बाहर की यूनिवर्सिटीज या फिर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ टाई अप कर रहे हैं, एंगेजमेंट कर रहे हैं, और उसके थ्रू आप मेक श्योर कर रहे हैं कि उनके लिए एक सेफ प्लेस है, सेफ स्पेस है वहां पे काम करने के लिए, यू नो। सो दीज आर अ फ्यू थिंग्स जो मुझे लगता है कि इंडिविजुअल, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और गवर्नमेंट की कैपेसिटी में दलित और आदिवासी वुमेन के लिए किया जा सकता है।
Yep. Thank you so much, Anjali. Great answer. I think it was well thought and explained. Really, really, thank you so much. In the same vein, so far we have talked about what are the issues being faced by Dalit women, how can government help and all. Let's also talk about some positive things happened. So Anjali, would like to start with you on this question. Can you please enlist what are some of examples of policies and programs that have been successful in promoting economic empowerment among Dalit and marginalized women?
Thank you, Sonali. In my opinion, actually, I believe, okay, they have done a lot, but there is still a lot which can be done. But there are some steps which the government has taken, which has actually helped Dalit and Adivasi women, which includes self-help groups, you know. So there are these community organizations where women are collecting money by themselves and then they are supporting each other, which at times is also supported by the government in organizations. So this is one thing which has happened very nicely. Then there are microfinance programs and skill development programs जो government उसके अंदर पैसा डालती है so that women can have access to them. However, it is a different story कि ground पे वो चीजें उतनी नहीं पहुंच पाती हैं. So like I said that NGOs are filling the gap which जो government ने loopholes create किए हैं, NGOs and other organizations and student activists, they are trying to bridge that gap. So they are making sure that the skill development programs जो government ने शुरू किए हैं, women from the marginalized communities are able to access them. Then there are एम्प्लॉयमेंट स्कीम्स, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मनरेगा है या फिर इस तरीके की जो स्कीम्स हैं जो गारंटी करती हैं कि एटलीस्ट इतना मिनिमम वेज जो है वर्कर्स को मिले. दिस इज ऑल्सो अ वेरी गुड स्कीम आई फील जो गवर्नमेंट ने किया है, और मुझे लगता है कि उसके अंदर और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन होना चाहिए सो दैट दिस थिंग इज you know that gap can be bridged. Also I feel ki the fact that I mentioned abhi ke only 0.8% of the total allocation in the budget is done for 9.9% of population. This thing needs to work better, because in a country where 10 Dalit women are raped each week, you know, 0.8% is nothing more than you know, it's like, oh, have you seen this meme where Laluji is saying ilo jamun khao, you know? So they're kind of giving us that jamun ki ye lo, ye tumhare liye jamun hai, khao, chup raho, you know. So it is a very I don't know how do I even put it, काफी खराब situation है ये. How government is doing efforts, but obviously we have more recommendations and suggestions which they can take from us only if they let us participate in the process.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anjali. Dr. Disha, I would like to hear from you as well. What are some examples of policies and programs that have been successful in promoting economic empowerment among Dalit and marginalized women?
I think Anjali has covered almost all of them. There is one so I think most of the policies that are in place are to help poor people, but there is a high correlation among poverty, in poverty and belonging to like marginalized groups, right? So most of the marginalized groups are poor people. So Mahila Kisan Sashaktikaran Pariyojana, I think that was a government-sponsored program that aimed to empower women, like poor women, by providing them with financial assistance and training to improve their farming skills. And it has helped a lot of women farmers, but again, this was not targeted for Dalit women. So I think it has been successful to a certain extent, but again, the implementation of these programs is poor, like I said earlier, because of weaker institutions in India. Then there is a STEP scheme. I don't know if Anjali was referring to the same scheme. It aimed to provide skill development training to women from marginalized community, which includes Dalit, and this was aimed to improve their employability and to create livelihood opportunities. So it provides training in various sectors, including agriculture or handicrafts and food processing. So when we talk about Dalits, we should also talk about manual scavengers. So there was a scheme by government, which is called National Safai Karmacharis Finance and Development Corporation, which provides financial assistance and training to manual scavengers and their dependents, including women. It basically gives them alternatives to their current livelihood, which is manual scavenging, which is just a very inhuman practice that is still going on in India, even though it is banned as per the law. And then Anjali already mentioned about self-help groups. So yeah, those are community-driven groups, which are, I think, most helpful, have been helpful in providing resources that Dalit women need. And I think the scholarships that we have in place, they have been quite helpful to a lot of people, but again, they are not reaching the lower the people who really need it. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying that people who get it, they don't need it, but if you go to rural areas, how many people know about those? I don't think, I would doubt if even 10% of the rural population knows about those scholarship schemes. And those are, I think, extremely helpful to fight intergenerational poverty. It can just put you in another economic status, right? So when you come here, you're not just changing your life, but you're changing life of your future generation. So that's what these scholarships are doing, and they are putting you in. You are getting connected. So, for example, like how all of us are now part of this group, right? So it was only possible because we all came here to the US and became part of this community, right? So those sorts of connections are only possible when you explore the world and move abroad and things like that. So if you want to move abroad, you need that financial assistance, which is provided by this scholarship. So I think these are extremely helpful, and they should be expanded, not cut down. Like there have been certain so there have been recent amendments to it that initially for a national overseas scholarship, there was no clause that you have to, if I'm correct, there was no clause that you have to go back in India and serve India for after 2 years, for 2 years at least. Once you get your degree, you have to go back and serve India. I don't think there was that clause, but now there is that, and yeah, so we have to make sure that it's more accessible, and we should not cut down the access to these scholarships, which are extremely helpful, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Disha. That was a really great answer. I have another question for you, Dr. Disha. And this is, how do caste-based discrimination and violence intersect with economic factors for women in the global economy? So we have, this is more onto the violence angle now. We have talked about gender and caste discrimination. This is like, how do violence on women intersect with economic factors?
So I think if any woman is facing like domestic violence or sexual violence, it's going to affect her physical health and mental health, and health is like the most important thing. As we all know, it's going to decide your all other life outcomes, whether you're going to get your quality education or whether you're going to get any education. Then are you going to be able to work, right? So all these outcomes are going to be determined by your health. And when I say health, it's not just physical health, mental health too. So sexual violence, domestic violence, these are extremely detrimental to an individual's physical and mental health. So right there, we see the direct impact of it. Especially with Dalit women, the cases of violence are not taken very seriously by the law enforcement. And we have seen that, like, like the rape cases in India, how very few are reported firstly, and then how very few get the media attention. And most of the cases that get media attention, they're not Dalit women. So for Dalit women, there is minimal to no help, I think, when they face any such violence. And when you're not getting education, when you're not able to provide for yourself, that means you are dependent on others, right? So I know so many people who are just staying in the marriage because they cannot come out. They have no means of supporting themselves or their family, so they have to rely on their husband's income. So yeah, so you're basically stuck in a place, and you cannot move ahead. Yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, thank you so much. You really explained it very well. And that's true. Like, if you are not financially dependent, you would rather choose the life where you are getting abused rather than moving out, because you are just scared of how would you live the rest of your life. So right. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
I just want to add, so that also means that you are not doing what you should be doing for your future generations, right? So if you are educated, that means your future generations will be educated. So if you are not, if you are stuck in a place, your children's health is also being affected, right? If you are married and if you have children, we are not able to like have become a good role models for them, or show them what a good quality of life is.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said. Thank you so much, Dr. Disha, for sharing that with us. I would like to hear Anjali's views on the same question. How do caste-based discrimination and violence intersect with economic factors for women in the global economy?
Thank you, Sonali. Could you please repeat your question once again for me?
Sure. So the question is, how do caste-based discrimination and violence intersect with economic factors for women in the global economy?
Right. So caste-based discrimination is faced by Dalit and Adivasi women in multiple different ways than how male child or people from the dominant gender would face, I believe. Because first of all, there is already a sense of insecurity which is there in Dalit and Adivasi women while still being at their households, I believe. So there is caste discrimination, there is patriarchy, and then they are poor also. So they're facing all the multifolds of oppression from the beginning when they enter this world, I believe. So abhi first, now they are fighting their parents to go and study outside. Abhi they'll go somewhere and they'll face caste oppression. For example, what happened with Dr. Payal Tadvi. She came from a very, very marginalized household. She was the only daughter in the house, जो कि medicine में थी वो, and then there was such caste abuse, institutionalized violence against her, that she actually died by suicide. She took her own life. So these are few factors which Dalit and Adivasi students, especially women, are fighting every day. Not just outside their houses, but also inside their houses. Because see, patriarchy is one thing which actually supports the dominant gender in the society. For example, when women are fighting for economic empowerment, it means that they are trying to regain control over their freedom and their lives, which is often not taken in a very positive spirit by the dominant members in the household. So which often results to violence. And violence, as we all know, has not just physical impact on a person's life, but also mental, and then it leaves them with post trauma. So they're always traumatized about the incidents of caste oppression and then violence which has happened. So violence does not necessarily happen only in the household. Violence is often subjected at them by members who are not of the house. So for example, they're going out of the house to study. There will be people who will not like the fact that a Dalit person, Adivasi person is moving forward in their life, or is actually trying to change their social status. So most of the times it is viewed as कि अरे तुम चमार के बच्चे हो, पढ़ के क्या करोगे, तुम भंगी के बच्चे हो, पढ़ के क्या करोगे. So this is one way where the caste Hindus are trying to suppress and subjugate the Dalit and Adivasi communities by enforcing the societal norms. Ke you are from this caste, this is what you're supposed to do. And now women are also prone to getting sexually exploited, sexually violated in areas, especially in rural India, because their caste forces actually are very violently in practice. So these are few factors which I believe that women, which actually negatively contribute to a women's journey towards getting freedom or getting empowered. Then how do you think कि अगर इतना इंडिया में ही पहले वर्ल्ड में इंडिया में एक स्टेट में एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट है, डिस्ट्रिक्ट में एक गांव है, गांव में एक छोटी सी जगह पे, एक सेग्रीगेटेड जगह पे कोई रह रहा है, उसके साथ इतना वायलेंस होता है. हाउ डू वी एक्सपेक्ट कि वो यहाँ से निकलेगा और फिर यूएन में जाएगा और वहां जाके अपनी बात रखेगा. कितना सारा बैरियर्स दे हैव टू क्रॉस, दे हैव टू गो देयर, दे हैव टू speak about themselves. Now that Ashwini KP has been into UN, it is such a huge thing for us as a community to celebrate. But are we not thinking about the fact that it took 76-75 years for one Dalit woman out of the 9.9% population that I'm emphasizing on to go to the UN? However, there have been so many upper caste, dominant caste women who have been there, and then it was not shocking. But for us, it is. We are celebrating it, but also it is a matter of shock to us.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, thank you so much, Anjali, for giving that answer. And this is a great discussion. We are learning a lot, especially the statistics. Those numbers are very scary and surprising. Thank you for having those deep insights on that topic. So what I would do now is I would take a pause on the questions from my side, and I'll open the floor for other participants to go ahead and ask questions. But for that, please raise your hands, and then I'll call one by one, and then you can start asking questions. So those participants who are interested in asking questions, please raise your hands. I do see a few questions in the chats. I will go over them in the meantime. I'm just going to see who has raised the hands. Okay. So let me actually take the first question we got from the YouTube channel, and this is for Anjali. Why is that Adivasi women have less land ownership? Is it purely gender-based discrimination within Adivasi population? Yeah, this has been asked by one of our viewers on YouTube.
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question for me?
Sure. Why is that Adivasi women have less land ownership? Is it purely gender discrimination within Adivasi population?
I think more than the gender aspect of it, I believe that it has more to do with the caste aspect of it. Because, see, women from the Adivasi community are less in population compared to Dalit women. But if we see them in a proportion, we are able to see that there is not much of a difference कि जो men के land owning capacity है versus what is allocated to women, how much land do they hold. I think this has more to do with the unequal distribution of resources amongst the marginalized communities, तो since they have never been land owning communities, naturally उनके हिस्से में बहुत कम जमीन आई और जिनके पास जमीन आई it naturally went in the hands of the dominant member of the house, which usually is men in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Thank you. There is another question in the chat. I would like to ask it to Disha. This is from other Sonali. She said, can you share one or two local groups in South Asia doing this work? How can we support and connect? So either of you can answer this question. This is related to are there any local groups in South Asia doing this work? And if so, how can we connect to support?
So I think Anjali, you can go ahead.
No, I was just asking what work, I mean, what kind of work?
Okay, so all this work to help women to get awareness. And I think she is talking more in the sense of women development and trying to educate them, all this social work. Like if there are any organizations in South Asia. Sonali, if you are in the call, can you please raise your hand and continue with your question? I think she might have dropped. That's okay. We will.
Education awareness in specific?
She hasn't mentioned it though. Anything in her question. It's in the chat. All right. Yep. So I haven't seen any hands raised yet. Please raise your hand if you have any questions for Disha and Anjali or any comments. Okay, I see we have Ritika raised hand. Ritika, please unmute yourself and go ahead with your question. Ritika, can you hear me? Yeah. Please go ahead with your question. Ritika?
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you now.
So my question is regarding those illiterate women who are working in the domestic helping field. So what I have been observing since many years, as my mother also worked in the same space. So what I actually feel challenging is the way in which I can upgrade her status just because she has developed a chain of satisfaction in the workspace that she has been doing, and she do never feel confident enough to upgrade that level. So in means our community, it's a kind of problem that is majorly hitting into the minds of women who are not literate enough because they don't have even the exposure or the experience through which they can, imagine much above. So what do you think, being means people in the academia, we can do as per our level to upgrade their level, or to make them understand that they can even do better as per their experiences in the area where they're working? That's it.
I can go ahead first. So I think we need to give them examples of the role models, right? That have done well in their career or have progressed. One more thing we can do is like putting them in a space, like making them explore other groups, other social groups, right? Making them part of other some events that where you have like the successful people. So if you just bring them in proximity to these people who have come from a similar background, when you look at those examples, you feel like, yeah, I can do that too. So unless they are in that surrounding, I think it's very difficult to make them understand that you can do it too, because again, I think we already touched upon this, that minorities have this lower self-esteem, and they often underestimate their self-worth. So by default, that's the setting. So how do we change that setting, right? We have to make them aware of what they can achieve by just trying a little bit harder, or by believing in themselves. So giving them example of the people who have been successful, making them, bringing them in close proximity of people who have been successful, right? Or making them a part of different events, or like, again, self-help group could be very useful in that aspect as well.
One more thing, as I'm just a kid, so people kind of us, we actually feel it challenging to communicate to our parents, because many of the times they feel as if what a kid can teach us, or I mean what they can tell us new or anything else, just because we are parents, we can means it is in their mindset that our children cannot tell us some new things, or things that can develop our status. They should only listen to us. So in many instances, when we try to put on such kind of examples, so at that time the most challenging thing is they actually never listen to us. So in these kinds of instances, what we can do, because holding on our own motivation becomes challenging at that time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a struggle. I think parents in general have to be a little more open-minded and be more accepting of new ideas. And what can we do if they're not? I think we can just keep trying. We can keep persuading them into buying those ideas, right? I have seen some of my friends whose parents were just against them pursuing higher education, but they were so persistent, they did not listen. So you might even have to go against your own parents sometimes, and do things until they start believing in you. Once they start seeing the positive shifts or good results, then they will eventually have no other option but to believe in what you're saying. I think we just have to keep trying hard.
Yeah.
This is Sachin on the line. Can I comment on this, please?
Yes.
Do you have a question? Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
No. In fact, this is Sachin on the line. So, Jai Bhim, everybody. So, Ritika, I was actually going to comment upon saying that, okay, the education or the process or the change has to start from within the house itself, I would say. Okay. So, and then you subsequently asked that question as well, which I was very happy about it. So in fact, you have to help them understand and help them realize that they have educated us, which means that when you are trying to educate them back, or when you are trying to help them out, use some different processes, I would say, different techniques. Okay, read some books for them. Okay, try to bring them awareness by reading some newspapers, magazines. Okay, how the society is, where it is, and all those kind of stuff, and try to help them understand that, okay, why I'm saying so all this is because you educated us now, and then this is where I'm trying to help you out, is because of the fact that you educated us. So I think if you say that in that, and we have to be very polite. Okay, this is a very sensitive, I would say, not an issue, but a sensitive situation, where yes, parents are basically not ready to accept it, but all the same, we have to be very politeful to convince them basically, and to help them justify that, with the education that I have now, and with the awareness, I have, this is what I think, you should be able to, this is how you should be able to change yourself, or, increase your status, or whatever it is. So I would just try to put in that way. And then, of course, as we have to just keep on trying, actually, and we never have to give up. And I'm pretty sure, they will be able to, at one point of time, they will realize it, and they will start to educate themselves as well. So these are just my 2 cents, basically, because frankly with you, I educate my parents, I've educated my brothers. Although I'm over here, they are aware of every situation that's happening over here at my end. And then in that case, I get the needed assistance, or I get the assistance from them, they being in India as well. Okay, so I'm just giving you all those things on the basis of my own experience. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Sachin, for sharing that. Appreciate it. All right. So moving on to next question. Pankaj Dada, please unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sonali, for the opportunity. And first of all, I just wanted to thank Ritika for that great question, and really felt very proud of her that she, being a child, was able to come up with such a profound question that should be hampering any society any point in time, because kids trying to change anything in a way of thinking or anything for a parent is always going to be challenging. But what I wanted to ask to the panelist is, how do they see that in helping this process, if we have more stories of the social reformers or the women reformers who were able to do so much to change the society, and tell those stories to our parents, or just keep on talking about those aspects of the life, maybe use dhamma in the process. We have so many great examples from Buddha's time, when women were able to achieve so much more compared to their social status at the time. We have Amrapali, we have Patachara, and not to mention our recent warrior woman, Savitribai Phule, or Ahilyabai Holkar. Different field, they have achieved so much. And coming from such a cornered situation where it could have been death situation for them to kind of even fight such battles, and they still were able to went on. So how do our panelists see that this kind of aspect can also be used towards this? And their comments, please. Thank you.
So I'm not clear about the question itself.
Same. I am not clear about the question.
Yeah, what I'm trying to ask is, do we see that spreading or making aware of the women in history which were able to swim against the current of their oppression, oppressing against the oppressing society, and were able to achieve so much more? Is that going to be a helpful factor in helping the psyche of the women right now? Because she, being illiterate, she may not even know about these women. Is that a helpful path to kind of improve on her psyche as to how can she improve on her self-esteem.
So, Anjali, do you want to answer, or I can also? We both can actually.
Yeah, sure. So in my opinion, I believe that there is a lot of history, there is a lot of past which hasn't ever been communicated or conversed to the community. And I think this past has been glorious, you know. There have been stories of struggle, there have been stories of victory, there has been stories of assertion upon oppression, you know. So there are a lot of stories that need to be passed to the coming generation. The legacy needs to be passed on, you know. So definitely there are challenges as well when you're doing that, because it's not easy to be a rebel in a society which is completely opposite to your idea of freedom or your idea of society, you know. So you are envisioning a society which is free, which is equal, which has no hierarchy. Then the reality is that we live in a society where the hierarchy is not just limited to four varnas, but also subcastes which are oppressing other subcastes, you know. So there are hundreds of subcastes under one caste, which also plays I feel which also plays a big role in determining whether or not a person can actually believe in the idea of unity. Because and I in my opinion, Dr. Ambedkar's philosophy or idea towards conversion into Buddhism was one uniting factor which could actually bring the community together, breaking all the barriers which actually kept us diversified, you know. So yeah, this is my take on it. I think the history, the legacy really needs to be taken forward and communicated to the coming generations. If I answered your question, if I was able to understand it right.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. Thanks for those comments. Yes, thank you.
I would just like to add to it. I think when we tell these stories, people don't really connect to them because they think that these are superheroes. They can do, you know, super women. They were able to do that because they are just special. They have some special abilities. So I think there's that disconnect, and we already have this like inferiority complex in our communities, which is very hard to overcome. And yeah, so we have to collectively, like as a community, we have to work on that, I think. And yeah, I can't I don't have like a really good answer how we can make people more connected to these people who have rebelled against society and done so good, not just for themselves but for the others. Yeah, I think if we can bridge that gap, you know, if we can make them think that yes, it's not that they are some superheroes. They are not some superheroes. They are just like you, very normal people who just took some different steps to get to get to where they wanted to go, right? So we just want to help them connect, you know, in some way to that they can also achieve that. Yeah.
Again, this is such another line. I just wanted to comment again. I'm sorry, actually. But here's the thing. So whatever we are discussing right now is more of a theoretical sense, in the theoretical part of it. We have to look into the practical aspect of it as well. So when I say practical aspect of it, knowingly, unknowingly, you know, there are certain things or steps that we need to undertake as children or as kids for our parents, in the sense that, say, for instance, like opening up a bank account, basically trying to do the bank transactions by themselves, also encouraging them to do the bank transactions. Okay, small transactions. Okay, if someone is having a good voice, encourage them actually to, you know, take up singing actually, and then slowly when their confidence is building up, then, you know, they can have them, you know, perform in a community kind of a thing. So there are certain parts, there are these practical aspects as well that we will have to gel with along with the theoretical portion. Because if you are just going to go like theoretical, they are not in a position to, accept everything at the same time. But knowingly, unknowingly, I would say that it has to be you have to gel with the theoretical as well as with the practical part of it. That is what the bottom line that I'm trying to make over here. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Sachin. Yeah, that's definitely true. Like, we can educate our parents, but also try to practice and teach them how it can be done. So thank you so much for sharing it again. Moving on to our next question, Vivek Dada, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question?
Yes, Jai Bhim, Anjali, and Disha. Thanks. This is a wonderful panel, and the presentation that you are doing is really enlightening, and a lot of data is there to share. My couple questions are like one I would like to ask both of you. We are in such a modern era right now, and we have so much resources. I could be wrong, or you could disagree with my point, but definitely more has been done since independence, and the constitution came in place. Okay, so the equal opportunity to education is still there, and still we are lagging. But in today's time, when there's so much advancement in the science and technology, why our community, and in that matter, the women are not able to take opportunity to educate themselves? Or is it the society who is failing the women from achieving their goals in terms of the education? And the second question is, what can be done, what can our society do, the organizations or the leaders in the community or the non-profit in the community or the government organization, what can they do to reach these marginalized people so that they are able to meet in the normal stream, so that way, I know the patriarchy is pretty at high in India, and also to removal or eradicate the patriarchy that we see in our country. The second question I have is the mental well-being of our women. I know there's a lot of atrocities happens upon them, sexual harassments, the battering, and the patriarchy plays a significant role. What is it that the civil society can do? For that matter, our community we are discussing here, the people who are scholarly, you guys in academia and other was in human rights. What is it that our responsibility is there to facilitate this conversation, even in a smaller group? Because we talked about the global part and then we talked about this the village part. Okay, so there are two extreme ends. How can we break these barriers and be a beacon of our society so that they are empowered? This question to both of you.
Yes, you're right that there are a lot of resources available for to everyone. That means it's available to women too. But I still feel there is this gap in the access of resources available to women versus men, especially in marginalized groups. So I think what we need to do is we still need to invest more in education. We need to provide incentives to women to go and complete their schooling and college and enter formal sector of employment. We can, as a community, try to reduce the barriers that they faced in getting that education. So a lot of girls, most of the disadvantaged groups, like marginalized groups or Dalit families, are from poor family, right? So they are working on very basic menial jobs, and there should be somebody to take care of family when parents are gone. So who is going to take care of the family's daughters? That's expected of them. This has just been going on from centuries. So that is still going on. And I think that's one thing that is really that is creating a barrier in education for these girls. So if you could remove that barrier by providing some sort of incentive to finish schooling for girls, I think that can create a big impact. So once they finish schooling, and there's a high probability that the parents will see the benefits of education and they might want to invest in college education as well. So I think education is the number one thing. There are still barriers, we need to remove them. It's possible that parents don't know, and I'm talking about a lot of rural families too here. They don't know just the how effective education is. So just making them aware, setting an example of making them aware of the role models in the society that have been taken education and have become more successful after that. If we spread that kind of awareness among parents, then there's a higher probability that they would want to invest in their daughter's education. So I also think that it's important for women to go in like higher education beyond college, like postgraduate education. So for example, PhDs and masters and PhDs, and that too from outside of India. So that because that can really change the dynamic of the future upcoming generations. Like it's going to just help them in multitude of ways. Again, like going back to the self-esteem or inferiority complex that our community face, I think that stigma or of belonging to so-called lower caste is very significant, and we need to show effort or do something to sort of like overcome that as a community. Yeah, so does that answer your question?
Partly. I just wanted to see what my approach is. Again, I'm trying to see how can we break these barriers. Somewhere we are a pillar for the society. Somewhere we can develop a method where we make our women successful. I know you answered most of it, but still missing something, that we are not able to penetrate in our societies the level where we need to, because as Anjali said, we are 9% population, which is a significantly high population, represents the woman like in a untouchable community. So I think and among in that, like it's a 0.8% is being kind of or very little population is educated. So we are living a big force, woman force, not bringing in the global economy. I think and definitely there are women who are extremely talented, because it's a significantly, in terms of the numbers, pretty high. So I think we need to penetrate in and provide some resources, and something, how we can do that. That is where I am trying to see, what organizations can do, like us, Anna, and what we can do to help the poor people and the marginalized people in India. And you are in academia, and Anjali is in human rights. Definitely, you both have the better understanding. We are just the social activists at this time. So that's where I am trying to understand. And I think the many others on the forum also would like to understand where they can also respectively work in their areas.
I think we just have to go and talk to these people, like at ground level, and explain. I'm sure we have a lot of people, back in India. Whenever we visit India, we just go and talk to our relatives and explain them the importance of education or higher education, and how they can improve their lives. So we just have to keep making that effort. And we can partner with local NGOs and to spread awareness of education, because education is the thing that is going to uplift them compared to any other thing, any other policy.
And Vivek, I can take a small stab at it. As Disha was mentioning, that we need to talk to them to understand what the concerns are, because or at the outset it might feel education is there for all. You can also feel that women are given 30% or 33% of reservation and this and that. But if you look at the ground realities, if you look at elementary schools or high schools, why is there dropout of girls from schools? It's as simple as lack of restrooms in or hygiene in schools. And what happens when a girl reaches puberty? They just stop going to school because there is not proper hygiene to maintain. So these are like very intricate issues. These feel like very small issues, but they have huge impact on the whole life, that if the girl has to give up education because of these issues, right? So yeah, I completely agree that we need to be more inquisitive. Like what entrepreneurs do, they understand what the customer problems are and then work on those problems to solve them appropriately. So we also need to find out what these issues are and probably solve them.
Yeah, I think there's a very high correlation in poverty and being Dalit, right? So most of Dalit families, they are from poor background. So their number one thing in not getting the education that they should is because they just don't have that incentive to get education. So if we can create some monetary incentive for them to finish their education, then I think that will be a big step. That will, and you rightly mentioned that lack of access to sanitary facilities in school, that's a big barrier for a lot of women, but that's not just true for Dalit women, that's true for all women. Yes, I think to increase the women's participation or attendance in schools, just addressing that one problem can be very, very significant in improving the attendance.
Yeah, so I would like to add something here. So like I mentioned that the government has a lot of policies and schemes, programs for girls and women to get educated. However, the problem is that one, there is no awareness about the schemes, okay? So for say that if they are giving money, कि इतने लड़कियों की पढ़ाई के लिए they are giving money. So one, that money is not sufficient. First thing, there is under allocation of money. Second, the scheme is not reaching the targeted audience, so the government sitting in the center is implementing schemes, however it is not reaching at the ground level. So like I said that the NGOs are filling more gaps, the loopholes which the government has created by doing village level camps and then doing community meetings and then mentoring and giving several workshops and trainings to these women, in a way how they can actually access the benefits which have been provided to them in public welfare, So first is that. Then I believe that there is a very big factor of gender discrimination which actually hinders these women from accessing their educational rights, So for example, uh, they have all the right documents to access the scheme. They have a bank account also. They are eligible as well. However, the family is not wanting them to study further, So the problem here is patriarchy. Then the issue, like Disha mentioned and Smith also mentioned, that sanitary practices in a lot of institutions are not there, So there are no proper washroom facilities, or they do not have access to clean drinking water. They do not have access to sanitary napkins, for example. If they happen to hit their menstrual cycle while being in the school, they do not have access to washrooms or places where they can actually help them sort out their problems. So these are a few things which I feel causes women to stay behind in the ladder.
Yep, that's true. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We are moving towards the end of this session, but we will take the last question. Satyanath ji, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Okay, thank you very much. I was thinking that culturally, after marriage, women move over to the men's home or something. But in married couples, the women actually can adjust better with the woman's home, because daughter and mother have grown up together and they can adjust better. And in fact, when the parents become old, and if they need to stay with one of their children, they would find it better to stay with their daughter rather than with their son's home. So if we could kind of change this culture of, of the male-oriented orientation, like somebody I was told has 3 daughters, and they desperately want another child, a male child. And they were saying that after we die, so we will have to put a lock on in our home, because if somebody has to live there, why can't the daughter move in there? Why do they have to think of putting a lock? I mean, the daughter should be taught just as like a son. These kind of a cultural thing, I don't know how we can change. Even after getting married, maybe if it's more convenient from job point of view for the daughters to stay in her parents' home and with her husband and family, then it should be that should be a good consideration. But in our culture, they have that if a man stays with the wife's home, it's like damad should not stay with saas or something. I don't know. There are culturally many things which don't make sense. So how we can change that? That's the I'm done. Thank you.
I believe
So,
going
Satyanath ji,
against
was that a question?
Sorry.
No, I was just asking Satyanath ji if he has question regarding what we can change and how we can change. Anjali, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I do not really have an answer or a solution to it, but I do have a comment to make. I believe that cultural norms are very difficult to break, but patriarchy is one thing which doesn't shatter overnight. I believe it breaks one step at a time. You have to break one brick so the entire foundation falls down, because this is the foundation of it. The entire building will fall down when the brick is gone. So from the outside, breaking patriarchy looks very progressive, so as long as you have confidence in the change that you're making or the societal norm that you're breaking, as long as you're confident of it being progressive and being of the century, that's when people are going to adapt it, because at the end of the day they also have younger generations coming into their house, and their younger generation is going to be influenced by what is happening in your house. So at one point of time or the other, they'll feel that this is something which should also happen in the house, because this is a thing of the present, and whatever is happening in my house is a thing of the past. So I think with the coming generations, patriarchy is going to diminish.
Thank you.
I feel I also have a comment to make on that. So I think just having more exposure to different cultures can also be very helpful. So if you have families in India, making them like visit here in the US, they can see themselves like how it is not, it's still very unequal, but how it is more equal compared to India, right? Patriarchy, at least the gender norms in the household aren't as rigid as they are in India. So that can be very helpful. And I think women, I don't want to put all this burden on women, but we have to also stand up for ourselves. If we see any injustice happening in our household, we have to speak up. I think that like we all agree that it starts from our home. So we have to start bringing in that change whenever we see any injustice or any patriarchal norms being implemented in the households.
Yes, 100% agree. Well said. Well, thank you so much. I think Chatak Dada has to make an announcement, and after that, we'll conclude this session. Chatak Dada, please unmute yourself and go ahead with the announcement.
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Jai Bhim all, this is Chatak. As you know, every year ANA celebrates the Sanyukta Jayanti on Memorial Day weekend. And this year also team is working on that. In this event, ANA announces 3 prestigious awards. One is a Dr. Ambedkar International Award. Second is a Savitribai Phule International Award. And third is a Muknayak Excellency in Journalism. So I have sent last Saturday the nomination form. Nomination form went to the ANA registered member. So you might have received this form by email. So please send your nomination for these 3 awards. The due date for that is next Saturday, 7 p.m. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dada. Krantitai, you have another announcement to make? Please go ahead.
No, it's just a comment. I'd like to say thank you to both the panelists for their insight, and thank you for sharing their knowledge. Thank you for joining us today.
Yep. Thank you. Vivek Dada, do you want to say something before we conclude the session?
Yes, please. I wanted to make an announcement. We have a Dalit Journey Abroad research project, which is being conducted by Rick Bouchard, a doctoral candidate in Boston Graduate School of Analysis. And most of his work, the study has been basically the interviews have been done. However, he's still looking for one woman volunteer. And I have posted this message in the chat window. So if anybody, any woman participant would like to volunteer, please reach out to him or reach out to me, or you can reach by to send Anna email, and we will connect you with Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you so much. All right. So we have reached end of this session. I would like to thank Anjali and Professor Shende for joining with us today and giving such informative and educating speech and talks on the topic caste oppressed women standing in global economy. I do see few hands are raised. Atul Shinde, do you have any question or anything to say?
No, but just wanted to announce that we would be celebrating Cyber, on the occasion of Ambedkar Jayanti. So we would be sending out the flyers. So it would be on 13 April. Yeah. So just wanted to, give a heads up. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Jai Bhim.
Sure. Jai Bhim. Thank you. Yeah. So as I was saying that, thank you, Disha and Anjali, for participating today and talking to us and answering all our questions. They were really informative and educating. So I hope we hear from you both more in future. But until that, thank you so much and good night. Have a good day for who the folks in USA. And thank you so much also for all the participants for staying with us till the end of this session. Hope you all have learned as well as understood things during this session. Also, please stay tuned. We are having another panel discussion next weekend on online Vihara on ANA, where we'll be having 2 new panelists, and hope to see you all there as well. Until then, thank you so much. Jai Bhim, Namo Buddhaya. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for having